Well, the Answer of Truth comes out on Friday, and one of the decks that people are most excited to play is Gear Chronicle. This is a deck which is bringing grade 4s into the main deck in a way that hasn't really been done before in the game. I know we've had Exculpate and we've had Transcendence, but this is more or less a very different way of playing them. Just a reminder that if you'd like to win a box of the Answer of Truth, all you have to do is leave a comment on this video, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel for a chance to enter. But with all that being said, let's jump into the grade 1s. Starting off, we have Steam Fighter MEMENNE, or MEMENNE. We're not off to a great start here. Anyway, she has the ability that on rearguard once per turn, when your Vanguard is placed, you can draw a card and discard a card. If you've discarded a grade 3 or greater, 3 of your units get plus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. Now most deck lists in Gear Chronicles right now tend to run about 10 grade 3 or 4 units, so it's actually pretty consistent that you can do this. On top of this combos with cards that add things back into your deck from the drop zone, as well as things that bind from your drop zone. And for those who don't know, binding is the Gear Chronicle main mechanic. All in all, this is a pretty powerful card. I'm going to give it a 5 stars for now. Next up, we have QUICKY Worker. This card on rearguard has the ability that when placed from hand, you can put one card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. If it's a grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 2 to draw a card. Now it's pretty important that you're going to be drawing cards in this deck because you don't typically run a lot of grade 3s. So because of that, this is a really good card to run. I would run 4 copies of it for sure. I'm going to say this is a 4-star card, and it's definitely something you should put in the deck for now. Following QUICKY, we have Retro Axe Dragon. On rearguard, it has the ability that at the end of the battle that it boosts, you can counterblast 1 and bind this card. Then you can return a grade 2 card from your drop zone to your hand. This is pretty powerful and works a lot with MEMENNE, as you can discard a card and then add this back once it's done attacking, and it's just really cool actually, and it again fills up your bind zone. Unfortunately, this is a promo card that doesn't have a release date in the West. However, when we do get it, I think we should definitely run this card. So for now, 4 stars. Of course, we have the grade 1 perfect card that most people are just going to be ignoring, which is Steam Artist ABI-RATTA. There's not much to say here. We've said it in just about every other clan review video. You probably aren't going to be running this card, so don't worry about it. Following that, we have Steam SCARA KALAIN. They have the rearguard ability that when it boosted, you can Soul Blast 1, and until the end of the battle, your opponent cannot intercept and can only call up to 3 Guardians. At the end of that battle, you must bind this unit. So it's a really cool card. It adds a little bit of guard restrict for them, and some of the cards in the deck hit some pretty good numbers, so it's a pretty decent booster. I'm going to give this a 3 stars for now. Some people run it, I just personally don't. And now the probably best grade 1 in the deck is WEDGEMOVE Dragon. On Vanguard, when its attack hits, you can bind a card from your hand and draw a card, which is really effective. You want to boost the total level of cards bound as early as possible, and you want to draw as often as possible, again as you're only running 4 grade 3s. It also has the continuous ability in hand that when this card would be discarded, it may be discarded as a grade 3. So again, comboing with MEMENNE pretty well. All in all, this is a 5-star grade 1, definitely run 4 copies of it for now. On to the grade 2s, we have one that some people run, some don't, and I get the argument either way, and that is GUN-BEZEL Dragon. On rearguard, when it attacks, you can counterblast 1, and it gets 5,000 power for each grade of your Vanguard. So if you're on a grade 4, it gets 20,000 power. That's pretty good. That being said, some people want to conserve the counterblast for some other abilities, and that's fine. But all in all, this is a pretty powerful card, and you can definitely run it if you think that you want to do a more in-your-face kind of playstyle. So for now, it's a 4-star card. The grade 2 which you are definitely running in this deck is Lostbreak Dragon. On Vanguard or Rearguard, when it's placed from hand, you can bind a card from your hand and then draw a card. Again, filling that cycle, same as WEDGEMOVE. It has the continuous effect on Rearguard though that if your bind zone has a face-up card in it, you get plus 3,000 power for this unit. Pretty good. So again, this is a 5-star card. You're definitely running it right now. It's great cycle. It fills your bind zone. It's everything that you want in the card. Next up, we have Missing Clamp Dragon. This is your 10k interceptor. And like I said before in many videos, I like these cards a lot, but I don't think that it competes with the grade 2s that you have available in this deck. There's 3 or 4 of them that are just really powerful, and this is just not worth running at this time. That being said, as you are running extra grade 4s, and 3s who don't have the guard symbol, this can be a good option to kind of fill in the missing space. So I'm going to give it a 2 stars. It does have some synergy with the clan, making up where it falls short, but overall I just think it falls a little bit short. Next up, we have Steam Fighter On. And this is a pretty weird card. It works as a early ride chain, sort of like the EZEL combo. So we've seen that be very successful in Gold Paladin, but I'm not sure it'll be as successful here. But I could be very wrong. If you run this card, let me know in the comments how it works for you. She has the ability that once per turn you can counterblast one and bind a card from your hand, which again builds towards that total grade bound, and choose one card from your opponent's rearguard in the front row. That card then gets put to the bottom of their deck. You can then call a Steam Expert ZERIX from your drop zone to rearguard circle. If you have a Steam Fighter MEMENNE on your rearguard, you can ride ZERIX instead. So there's a few things that make this a little bit less consistent than the EZEL ride chain, and the first is that ZERIX needs to be in the drop zone already. And yeah, there are cards that allow you to do that, but it makes this a little bit less consistent, because you have to draw ZERIX and then discard it. And on top of that, you already have to have MEMENNE on the field. And on top of that, neither MEMENNE nor AHNE can be on Vanguard Circle. And the trade-off for this is that you do get to basically retire one of your opponent's front row cards, but it's just so much less consistent than only needing to have Bowmane and EZEL in hand, and poof, you're done. So it's an okay card, it does something kind of cool and unique, but I don't think it fits into the deck too well. It just doesn't hold up, so 3 stars for now. The next grade 2 though, Steam Hunter LIPPITT, is super powerful and has the ability that when placed from hand onto rearguard, you can bind a card from your drop zone, and this unit gets plus 3000 till the end of the turn. So if you've been discarding grade 3s or 4s or whatever else, you can bind them and get towards your goal much faster. Super powerful card, very good, and I'm going to give it 5 stars. You should definitely run this card. Next up we have Steam Mechanic NABU. This is probably the most powerful grade 2, or it at least has the most things loaded into the effect. It has the ability that when it attacks a Vanguard, you can bind a card from your drop zone, and your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from their hand until the end of that battle. At the end of that battle, put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So it's a good cycle, it allows you to bind a card, and it's a guard restrict. That's a lot to offer. The only thing that the card doesn't really do is have its consistent field presence as you are binding it, but I mean, who cares when it gives that much utility? So I'm going to give it a 4 stars for now, probably worth a 5 star, but I'm going to be a little bit conservative here as the card does vanish off your field. But overall it combos really well with the deck and you should definitely consider running it. On to the grade 3s, we have ESCRUDE Dragon. This card has the Vanguard and Rearguard ability that when it attacks, you can counterblast one and bind one of your rearguards. Then you choose one of your opponent's rearguards with a grade less than that card, cannot be equal, and put it on the bottom of their deck. If it was put at the bottom of their deck, you can draw a card. So right off the bat, this card reminds me a lot of DRAGONKNIGHT from Tachikaze, as you retire one of your cards, retire one of their cards, more or less. The draw is pretty nice, and even though there is a condition on the removal, I don't think it's too bad at all. That being said, I don't think that you're running this card, but you could definitely try it out. It is never too bad to have extra force markers or retire effects on your field, and again, this goes off Vanguard or Rearguard, so it adds some utility at least. So for now, I'm going to give this a 4-star card, but you're probably not running it. Speaking of cards you're probably not running, we have Grand Strike Dragon. This has the continuous ability that on Vanguard or Rearguard during your turn, if the sum of the grades of the units and face-up cards in your bind zone is 12 or more, this card gets 10,000 power, which is pretty cool, especially considering that you're going to be having this on Rearguard and it's a 23,000 column on its own. But overall, I mean, it's just power, and you're running a Force Clan, so you're gonna get there eventually on your own anyways. So this card, again, falls pretty short. I'm gonna give it a 2 stars. There's a lot of work going into just making this okay. Now we have the main, and in most cases only grade 3 that you're going to be running, and that is Interdimensional DRAGONKNIGHT Lost Legend. So this card has the act ability that you can discard cards with the sum of their grades being 3 or greater from your hand, search your deck for a grade 4 and ride it as stand. Then shuffle your deck, then at the end of your turn you retire that unit and you ride a grade 3 from your soul as rest. It also has the ability that when rode upon you can counterblast 2 to draw a card. So where does this card get all of its power? Well, while you are discarding a card, your grade 4s are crazy powerful in this deck. Some of them give you pluses in general, and you can counterblast 2 to make up for the lost card by drawing when you use the effect. On top of that, you do get a force marker when you play this card, and then come back to it after you ride it from soul. So that's pretty solid. You're essentially adding 20k to your board the first turn you ride this. I hear that's okay. The card just really works with the deck, and it's 5 stars for sure. This is the grade 3 that you want to run. It just makes everything run very smoothly. And the final grade 3 we got is Steam Expert ZERIX. When placed on Vanguard, this unit gets plus 10,000 power till the end of the turn. And on Rearguard, when your Vanguard is placed, one of your Vanguards and this unit get plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So this is a really cool pump-up card. It has some utility being placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, and again it works with AHNE and MEMENNE as a ride chain. And while it's very similar to Grand Strike Dragon, being a big buff card basically, I'm going to give it a 3 stars instead of a 2, as it does have some support, and it can be used on Rearguard really effectively to pump up your Vanguard. On to the grade 4s. So we have Interdimensional Dragon, Idealize Dragon. So these cards have tons of text, but we're going to try and get through it. So when placed on Vanguard, you activate all of the effects below according to the sum of the grades of the face-up cards in your bind zone. If you have a grade 1 or more total bound, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and put it at the bottom of their deck. So you're pretty much guaranteed to have that at this point, and even just that effect on its own is pretty okay. If you have total of grade 5 or more bound, you can call the top card of your deck to rearguard. This is pretty hit or miss. You can hit a trigger which sucks, or you can hit something pretty powerful. And then if you have 11 or more bound, you can call 2 cards from your drop zone to rearguard, and 3 of your rearguards get 5,000 power till the end of the turn. This is a great card against control decks, as you're going to be running pretty short on resources a lot of the time, especially if you're playing against clans like Shadow Paladin or Kagero, where they're removing your field, because you ride this and poof, you get to fill your field for free. So it allows you to go pretty much endless on resources, which is awesome. So I'm going to say this card is a 4-star card. You're definitely running it right now. You don't really have too many other options. And yeah, on to the last card, which is Interdimensional Dragon, Mystery Flare Dragon. And this is the game winner. So when placed on Vanguard, activate all the effects below according to the sum of the grades of the face-up cards in your bind zone. Same as the last one. But if you have 3 or more, this card gets an extra drive check, so you're making up for the discarded card because of Lost Legend. If you have 7 grades or more, this card gets an extra critical until the end of the turn. If you have 13 or more, you choose 6 of your units and they get plus 10,000 power to the end of the turn. So you're essentially getting a deer effect off, which I hear deer is pretty good. Who knows? Finally, if you have 19 or more, at the end of this turn, you can discard all the cards from your hand, and you get an additional turn. You cannot ride during that turn. So this is a really high risk, high reward card, as you're going to be left with basically nothing that you can do. However, getting 60,000 power on the field, an extra critical, an extra drive check, and then an extra turn, a lot of the time is going to win the game for you. Now it's important to notice that neither of the grade 4s have force markers, so take that into account when you're planning your turns, but overall riding into them is pretty effective, especially from Lost Legend. I don't think you're going to actually want to ride too often onto a grade 4 from hand, but you do have the option, which is pretty nice. So this is a 5-star card, you're running it for sure, it's kind of what the deck is built around, and let's actually look onto the deck list. Right now I'm running 3 of both grade 4s. I just kind of like the utility that comes from having both options available pretty much always. However, a lot of people do run 4 Mystery Flare and 2 of the other one. We're only running 4 grade 3s, as the other grade 3 options aren't exactly fantastic, and the rest of the deck is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be running 8 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal, as I think 6 draw is too much in this deck. You're basically power cycling a lot of the time, and I think that too many draws will actually be a deficit for you. But overall, it's a super fun deck, and as this is a new clan for me, I haven't actually played around with it too much, but I'm definitely pretty excited for it. I did get some help building this deck through Vanguard Insider, so if you guys haven't subscribed to him or checked out his videos, I definitely recommend it. He's really cool to watch. He has a really unique way of showing off decks, so link will be in the description, and I believe I'll have a card being popped up right now if you want to check him out. But overall, this clan is really powerful, and your grade 4s are just gonna win you the game at the end of the day. That's just what it comes down to. But what do you guys think of the deck? Are you looking to play this one, Genesis, or Great Nature most? And again, if you are looking to play one of these clans, you can subscribe, leave a like, and a comment for your chance to win a box of Answer of Truth. But with all that being said though, this has been Miracle Trigger. A big thank you to Decimus as always for supporting the channel on Patreon, and I'll see you tomorrow with the Great Nature deck analysis.